just to recap, she has, Attorney General Pam Bondi, directed a U.S. federal prosecutor to take that evidence to a grand jury relating to the alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to Russia. Let's bring in now two people who have been following this whole thing from the very beginning. That is New York Post columnist and Fox News contributor Miranda Devine and former CIA analyst and the host of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show, Buck Sexton. Thank you both for being with us here today. It was only a little bit earlier today on Will Cain Country, the digital show that precedes this show every day at 12 o'clock Eastern time, that Miranda, you and I were talking about the interest of the American people in this story. A Rasmussen poll shows that well over half of America is following this story intently. And now we have a massive update, a grand jury. What do you think, Miranda?
Well, this is just going to heighten interest despite the best efforts of the complicit media in the complicit Russiagate media in trying to suppress this and bury it. And look, it seems like very fast work, because remember, it was just the beginning of July 2, that John Ratcliffe set the ball rolling with his release of a review of that original intelligence community assessment, which got the entire Russiagate story going, saying that Donald Trump's election victory in 2016 was manipulated by Vladimir Putin, which was not true, and it was manufactured intelligence. From then on, Tulsi Gabbard has been declassifying a whole lot of material which just furthers that conspiracy, which was really about covering up for Hillary Clinton and her problems towards the end of her campaign with her pay-for-play Clinton Foundation scandal and her, of course, her email server and the missing emails. And so she needed a diversion, and that is what some of this material shows. Right. Now, it seems fast, like this is a month. However, Tulsi Gabbard has been working behind the scene for months, just extracting this material. You would think, as the Director of National Intelligence, it would be easy for her to get her hands on this material, but she has had to battle the deep state at every agency, at every step. Doesn't matter if there are new Trump appointees in charge, the people who are blocking access to those materials, they came up against a very tough person in Tulsi Gabbard, and she's managed to get a lot of this material, and I think we're now seeing the fruits of that.
You heard Miranda bring up Hillary Clinton. This is from, as a reminder, from the declassified Durham Annex, page 11. HRC approved Julia's idea about Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections. That should distract people from her own missing emails, especially if this affair goes to the Olympic level. Now, this story, as we pointed out, and again, you can check it out on Spotify or Apple, that Miranda and I had a long conversation, which she wrote about in the New York Post, was covered exhaustively in the mainstream media in 2016. Some well over 2,000 minutes of coverage. The story you're now hearing today and have heard over the last week or so has only been reported on something like 2 minutes in ABC, CBS, and NBC. 1/1000th of the original coverage. It'll be hard, Buck, to cover this up now, a potential grand jury. So I'm going to go to you, what I talked about with David. Names: Brennan, Clapper, Hillary Clinton. Who do you think we will see potentially coming out of this grand jury?
Well, Will, it's certainly a step toward accountability for the soft coup attempt that you and me and Miranda and many of us have been dealing with and covering for a decade now. But it certainly is worth that coverage, because you're talking about an effort that involved the weaponization of government and of law enforcement agencies, of the deep state, of the media, of the Democrat Party, from the top down, as you mentioned, Hillary Clinton, to effectively nullify a presidential election and destroy a presidential administration. It's really hard to think of something more serious than that. And I think, at a minimum, getting the information out, which I know DNI Gabbard and others in the intel community are very focused on doing, that's critical because of the need for political accountability. But now we're looking at the possibility of legal accountability. And I would just remind everyone that we don't have to have this standard in this country where only Republicans ever have to face, in the case of Trump, wrongfully face charges and the legal system. It needs to be a both ways thing. They have to start to suffer the consequences of their misdeeds, of their violations of statute. And if that includes former senior members of the intelligence community, let me tell you, John Brennan, for example, ruthless with people who violated statutes. In some cases, I know people in the agency, CIA, who say was a particularly nasty fellow if somebody broke any statute that has to do with intelligence. So why he all of a sudden would get special treatment in this situation, given the gravity of what he did, it's beyond me. I would like to see where this goes. I'd like to see what the grand jury does. But for the first time, I think, Will, there are people who are involved in this soft coup who are starting to sweat. This is serious. A.G. Bondi and the Trump administration are not playing games.
No. In fact, let's take a quick look back at the accusations in the timeline. Here it is on your screen. The FBI knew a hoax came from Hillary Clinton and her campaign. They ignored then the key intelligence. The Clinton campaign then used or possibly coordinated with the Obama FBI to accelerate the narrative, put it under the patina of an investigation, then leaked that out to the press. The FBI then placed thousands of docs in burn bags for destruction, but that was found by Kash Patel. And it shows that Hillary Clinton approved to concoct the plan that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. Really quickly, back to you, Buck. I know you're not an attorney, but you are very well versed in the law. You're very intelligent, and you have been involved in intelligence agencies. You heard me ask David Spunt about potential charges. Essentially, he said something about lying to a law enforcement officer. Do you see, in any sense, what those charges might be for, as you point out, the legal accountability?
I think that you're going to run into some problems. That would be a U.S. 1001. This is very common. You know, Will, I did terrorism investigations at the Intel Division of the NYPD, working with the FBI in many cases. And that was a common statute, right? Some guy's lying about something in the course of the terrorism investigation. Hey, did you try to buy explosives from this guy on this day, whatever it may be? And they get them on that. Problem is, I believe the statute is 5 years. There's some ways you can extend that statute. So I think something more like seditious conspiracy is what you might be seeing here, because the statute on that may extend enough. But honestly, there are so many, there are truly thousands of federal criminal statutes. And as we've seen from the administration before this, they're willing to get very creative. I have a feeling that a massive conspiracy to undo the Trump administration from the inside tripped up some statutes that they may decide are going to be brought to the forefront here.
And Buck, you and I have had long conversations about the breadth of the federal criminal code. It's almost literally unquantifiable. I think they've put together a congressional task force to try to quantify the number of laws out there that now exist within federal law. Last question to you, Miranda, and let's go back to media. You had this incredible quote in your New York Post column that we talked about earlier today from Mark Elias, who is really one of the central figures in the Steele dossier's creation. And he was begging, imploring the media not to cover what you and I and Buck are talking about today. He's begging the media to say this is just another story of misuse of power of the authoritarian Donald Trump. A grand jury empanelment against whoever it may be is hard to continue to dismiss as the misuse of power. I will be curious to see if that 2 minutes of coverage on ABC, CBS, and NBC can't turn into a more appropriate amount of attention.
Yes, I think that they will be hard-pressed to ignore or suppress this news. But of course, that 2 minutes of paltry attention that they have paid thus far has been mainly taken up with trying to debunk the information, with giving John Brennan and Mark Elias and the like a platform to defend themselves. So that's probably what they'll continue to do. But I just think of John Ratcliffe, who made some very prescient comments yesterday when he was being interviewed by Maria Bartiromo, where he said, this conspiracy continues to this day. So I don't think we have any worry about statute of limitations. I think we're talking about throughout the Biden administration and maybe even beyond.
Oh, fascinating. And we will, I promise you, here on The Will Cain Show, dig into that unquantifiable federal criminal code to see what could be the potential charges here that could come out of a grand jury. All right, Miranda, Buck, thanks for being on call, jumping on quickly, and having a fascinating conversation on this breaking news.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.